We've been busy with the topic of leadership for all generations, and today we are looking at the topic of understanding Generation Y and Generation Z better. If we understand each other better between the generations, we can definitely work better with each other. And why do I want to place emphasis on Generation Y and Z? Because most leaders, those that are in authority today, are the ones who are older. We lead churches, we lead companies, we lead organizations, and it's very important for us to understand the younger generation, and that's why today Generation Y and Generation Z. Who is Generation Y? In the last weeks we said Generation Y, they are the ones between 25 and 45 years of age. Generation Z are those under 25 years of age. And I want to go through a number of characteristics and then comment on what can be done to work better with this younger generation, especially if you're working with them. And then at the end I'll give some tips for the younger ones too, who are in leadership positions, and in your team you have some older folk. For this Generation Y, the following points are characteristics of who they are. Firstly, first impressions are crucial. They don't wait until they've really looked throughout the whole situation of the organization and what it does, but their first impression is very important. We found when young folk come to our evening meetings, it's mainly the Generation Y and Z, the young folk, we've seen that they decide whether they're going to stay through what they experience and what they see. They say, do we find friends here? Will there be relationships here? Will it be difficult? The older generation, their first question would be more in this direction. What do these people believe? Do they have a theology or a belief that I can identify with? And then only afterwards they decide, will I be able to have friends here? The first impression is important. Then media has the greatest impact on this younger generation. They respond to the visual. And that's why it's so important for us that we keep up with this, that we are visually active when it comes to media, that we use the media, the social media, that we're busy with that. What do we have on our websites? Do we have websites? What do they look like? They communicate very differently in this generation to what we had. They communicate differently. They quickly write texts, for example, with WhatsApp, and maybe next they would do an email, and then they would use social media to connect and to communicate. And then only afterwards maybe a phone call, and then at the bottom of the list it would be meeting in person. They communicate differently, and they expect this communication to be excellent. They are dependent on this technology, and actually in the personal communication they've lost a bit in terms of the face-to-face connection, but they're not even probably aware of that because they communicate so well in other ways. So the next point is this Generation Y, are looking for genuine and authentic. What is genuine? What is human? What is authentic? That is what they are looking for. That is what they need. They look for unique experiences. There's not a one-size-fits-all. That absolutely turns them off. They need something unique. They want to live for something meaningful. They don't want to do work where they just earn a salary and so on. No, they want to invest for something meaningful. They want that feeling at the end of their life or at the end of the day that their life has stood for something meaningful. It's a great characteristic. And when they are empowered, they flourish. They want their opinions to be heard. They want to give their opinions. And they are prepared to communicate. What else do we have? They look for advice that they can trust. In a world where there are just so many options, so many choices, what should they buy? What occupation should they do? Where should they have their holidays? All these options and choices, they need counselors, someone who can take them by the hand and say, you can do it like this or like that. And I'm convinced that for our younger generation, we should be offering mentoring so that this can build solid relationships, giving them an opportunity for just having that stability. In my experience, when I've offered young people mentoring, hardly ever has someone said no, because they've looked for that advice where they can find people they can trust. This generation is also disillusioned with materialism. They've looked at their parents and they've said, our parents have just worked and worked and worked, and they don't have joy, there isn't happiness. Why should we work hard and just to get rich? Because they may be rich, but are they really happy? And then they choose another way of life. They are also uncommitted in this global world. This generation is on the go, like no other generation before. They can work somewhere else, they can travel. With the English that they have, they can go into many regions in the world where they are understood, and there's the opportunity. They can experience things all over. And our opportunity is to help them to be committed, to find a place where they can build relationships, where they have that feeling of being understood, where they can settle in relationships and be prepared to give in a relationship. Communication is interactive. Just have a look. There are those things where, like even TV, where they say phone in, give answers to our questions. It's that interactiveness. They do it out of their intuition in this world of technology, and that's how they respond. They want short but regular feedback, not official, formal, long talks, but they want regular feedback to how they're doing, and that suits them well. And then Generation Z. There are many similarities with Generation Y, but there are also differences. The first difference is that this generation has been born into a social media, and they do a whole lot over social media, more than the Generation Y. They're also well educated. It's going to be a generation that will probably be better educated in this area of media than any generation before. They do a lot over the internet, for example, YouTube, and they're often self-taught with online sources, etc. And they want to, even more so than Generation Y, have a positive influence and an impact on the environment, the eco-consciousness and everything. They're motivated and excited about having influence in this area. Now, if you're under 40 and you lead a team with some people who are over 40, what and how should you lead this team? Now we're going to change the situation around a bit. Let's have a look at this and remember that to lead is something that we always grow in. We grow in with a good attitude. And I also want to say, don't be insecure because you're younger. Lead by being an example. Appreciate the others and they will follow you. And then I think, grow in the areas that are outside your skills. Maybe you're very good with technology, etc. But it's also important that you look beyond that and that you take advice, that you continue to grow in areas, in relationships, in skills with other people. And so, to end, what do we do now? Firstly, what works well? Celebrate these successes. Secondly, what is not working? Consult then with other generations and create a group with different people, different generations, to talk about the problems and communicate and decide on steps, new steps you need to go, and then go these steps. And then thirdly, if you're over 40, what can you do better to work with those under 40? And if you are under 40, what can you do to work better with those over 40 or under 20? If you have any comments or you have any questions and you want to come into contact with us, please write to us. We would love to answer your questions and comment. Thank you for doing this.